Good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this April the 27th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. And don't forget, we're always on Roku.
Can you believe it's already almost done with April?
It's unbelievable.
Speaking of that, May 6th, Doug Trice Memorial Golf Tournament. It's a golf tournament that Dana and I started in honor of Doug Trice, and it provides local high school athletes with scholarships.
Yeah. Are you
May
planning
6th.
that?
I haven't decided yet. I'm probably just going to work, like help, because my shoulder's not great.
Yeah.
So
good. And if people want to play in that, how do they?
They get a hold of me or Dana. They can email Buffalo Peak or message me right here.
Good.
Yeah, I didn't play in the April Fool's Day Scramble, which ended up being April 15th because of weather.
Right.
Because my shoulder, like, I tried swinging the club and it didn't feel good. So I'm not going to risk. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, we'll start with EOU softball. The number 24 team in the country took on number 8 College of Idaho on Tuesday. They dropped a pair of games. The only game that counted was the first game, and it was crazy. It went 8 innings without any runs, and then 7 innings without any runs, and then in the top of the 8th, Kaylee Hoskins, our number 1 pitcher, she loaded the bases, made one mistake with a pitch, and hung it a little bit, and grand slam. We ended up losing 4-0. She struck out 17 in that game, which is like she averages like 13 to 15 strikeouts a game, which is unreal. She set the EOU record this year for strikeouts in a season. The EOU finishes their season this weekend at home against Warner Pack. It'll be senior day on Saturday. So they'll play Friday, Saturday, and then they're going to make the tournament, the conference tournament. So their season won't be over. EOU baseball dropped a midweeker to Whitman on Tuesday night after they split this last weekend against Corbin, which is a really decent team. And that was our first win, like I said, on Tuesday in 30 games. I mean, they had a 30-game losing streak. They'll play at home this weekend against College of Idaho on Friday and Saturday, with senior day on Saturday as well. Congratulations to Delia Golzo. I haven't said anything on the morning show. She signed her letter of intent / commitment letter to continue her academic and wrestling career at EOU, which is a really smart move because this EOU program, both men's and women's, are top notch for NAIA. I mean, really, they're coached very well. Mark Habala is the women's coach. Walt Anderson is his assistant, and they're legit.
Yeah.
And then the EOU wrestlers, there's 8 of them right now at the U.S. Open, which is in Las Vegas, and it's exact. You know who's wrestling in this? In the Masters on a comeback at 51 years old? Rulon Gardner.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's wrestling in the Masters at the U.S. Open. He's 51.
That's funny.
Yeah, so it's like all levels of college. So like our heavyweight has a chance to have to wrestle Gable Stevenson, who's like the NCAA national champion, who's like a absolute beast. Like,
that's funny. So and you and I have talked about the Rulon Gardner. His sister is actually the heart doctor up at Grand Ronde Hospital.
Yeah. Yep, Rulon Gardner's 51, and I mean, that's, you have to be born between, like, I don't remember what it was, but like 68 and 98 to be in the Masters or something like that. And then you have, so the way it works is you have the seniors, which is anything over 20 and below whatever Masters is, and then you have 20U, 17U, and then women's, and it's open to anybody in the whole United States, and that's how they make the national teams.
Wow.
So based on your place, you know, if you win your weight, you become a representative. It's crazy. LHS softball beat Vail on Tuesday, 10-5. They have a league doubleheader in Baker tomorrow at 2. Starts at 2 o'clock. Shouldn't be too much trouble for them. It's weird. OSAA has them ranked under Pendleton, which they're a better team than Pendleton. If you put our number 1 against Pendleton's number 1, we beat them.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's what matters. Like, if we had to play them in the playoffs, it's our number one going against their number one, and we're going to beat them.
Yeah.
Baseball plays a league doubleheader at Baker tomorrow as well, and they start at 2 and 4, which I don't like the way the schools do that now. I don't like having the games at the same time. We never played at the same time as softball when I was in school.
Yeah.
And it's really weird down at Optimus when you have 2 games going at the same time because foul balls are coming into each field. Yeah, it's kind of scary. Like, I was at the EOU game last weekend, and there was like a bunch of little girls practicing on the little softball field, and it's going to change once they start playing all their games on the new field. But
Right.
But if there's a JV game or something going on, there was a couple balls that were fouled off that almost hit people. Like, it's kind of scary.
Hmm.
It really is. So yeah, tomorrow, 2 and 4, LeGrand versus Baker, which we shouldn't have too much trouble with that either. So we'll see. And we're getting ready to make playoff runs in both softball and baseball. So it's almost that time of year.
Good deal.
That's it.
Well,
Got a
and
comment.
this is nice baseball weather, right?
Oh yeah, Eastern Oregon football. Second week of spring ball is almost over for EOU football too, and that's where they're getting ready for their spring game, which culminate. I mean, it's like a big day of greatness. Like they have the alumni games, they'll have the softball alumni game, they'll have the volleyball alumni game at 10:30. Last year they played the spring game at night. I think it was like at 6 o'clock start. So everything was like during the day. And because I asked Khaki, I was like, why is your game at 10:30? Like, that's too early for me on a Saturday. And she's like, they pushed the football games at 1 this year. So yeah, I think it's the 21st of May. Is the spring football game, and new offensive coordinator, some new stuff going on, and a bunch of new players. So yeah. Bud Forrest, what's up, my man? My armchair quarterback right there. He's up and at him, 8 o'clock in the morning. Atta boy.
Glad you're with us, man. Well, let's look outside. Pretty out there this morning.
It's gorgeous.
And let me grab I'm not near as good at this. Here we go. This is kind of what the weather looks like over the next couple of days and in the area here. So it's supposed to be up nearly to 70 today, right?
64.
Yeah. So
not as nice as it was yesterday. It was like 75 at the nicest part of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it was. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to complain about 65. I'm good with that too. I'm good anywhere from about 65 to 90. And then,
see, I'm a 70s guy. You keep it in the 70s for me, I'm just fine with that.
65 is too cold?
No, I mean that's fine too. No, I'm just saying that. Yeah, I would rather it be a little bit cooler. So, all righty. Well, this morning we're pleased to have Brett Baxter, the LeGrand High School principal, with us, and glad that he's here, and he'll be with us here in just a minute right after this.
EO Live is your connection to Eastern Oregon. Get the latest and most relevant news in 2 minutes or less on our evening news broadcast. We cover Eastern Oregon's weather daily with Gabe, the EO Live weather kid, with an extended forecast every Friday. Watch Dodzy on EO Live Sports to get the latest sports information and interviews with local coaches, athletes, and more. See Brent and Dodzy goof and gaff with local guests on EO Live's morning talk show, AM Live on EOA. We're available across the board, including Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Fire, and of course, our very own website, eolive.tv. We even have our own Roku channel with 24/7 live stream EOA content. You can also listen to our shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and many other popular podcast apps. You can get everything all in one place with the EO Live app, available on Android, iOS, and the Amazon App Store. EO Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon.
We're back. How are you, man?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good. Especially with that 65 degrees coming today.
I know it. Yeah.
Indeed.
So, well, I called you to have you come in because there's like some changes that are happening in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, just minor little changes.
Yeah. So you've been principal for how 10 years? Is that right?
9 years. So
Okay.
I'm finishing my 9th year. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I've been principal at the high school for 9 years, and I was principal at Greenwood for a year before that.
Okay.
Yep.
And so tell us about the change. What's just happening?
Well, after a lot of years in the same school and in the same district, it felt like time for a new challenge, and so I am taking the position of the assistant superintendent at the Wallowa County ESD up in Enterprise, and be working with former colleague Landon Braden, who's worked in our district a couple of times in different roles, and so I'm stepping down as high school principal, which is bizarre for me to even say, because yeah, it's just been my home, and it's been my team and my family for many years.
So I guess let's talk first about what made you decide to pursue this change. We'll go back and we'll spend some time talking about your time here. And there'll be lots of time to reflect over that. I mean, people are still probably like gasping in the middle of that. Yeah. And so, but yeah, kind of what went into the decision for you to consider that?
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago I started thinking, I really do like to challenge myself and like to grow, and sometimes that means a different position. Sometimes that just means starting a new program. All those things can be really challenging and gratifying, but I think it just came down to needing a change, and the high school principal job is sort of a meat grinder.
Oh, really? You think?
It kind of has to be your life,
Yeah.
and so I still have 3 kids at home. 2 of them are graduating this year, but that time doesn't come back, and so it's kind of become their way of life too, and so I just felt like moving forward, I wanted a little change of pace, and so look for something that would help me, I guess, explore and use my skill set or my knowledge and support others in that same venture.
Now, the title of the new job is assistant, but you have ESD in there.
Right.
So talk about, I mean,
Yeah.
people are immediately going to be confused by that. So what does that mean?
Yeah. So in Wallowa County, there are 4 districts, school districts that are served by their ESD Region 18. And so that's Joseph and Enterprise and Wallowa and Troy.
Okay.
And so that ESD provides a lot of the services that those small districts can't afford to do themselves. And as a consortium, you can really provide a broader spectrum of services and support as an ESD, an education service district. So they all have superintendents.
Okay.
Other than the Troy district, and the ESD superintendent actually serves as the superintendent for that district too. Very, very small, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So I'll be the assistant superintendent there, working in the education service district, serving those component schools and working with their administrators and their staff to find solutions and find resources to help them do their best.
Isn't this a natural career progression too?
For me, it feels very much like that. Yeah, I mean,
it kind of seems like it. Like you go from teacher to principal to administrator. You know what I mean? Like a higher up administrator.
It's a great question. I never thought my career path would lead. I never thought of myself as an English teacher to begin with, but then to go into administration, so much of this was never on the the bucket list or the to-do list for a career, but it's felt pretty natural every time I've made a shift, and I trust those people around me that say, hey, I think you'd be good at this. Hey, maybe this would be, in this case, maybe a healthy shift for just a change of pace, those kind of things. But also, like you said, it's kind of a natural progression to say, I've got this body of experience. Well, let me go, spout off my opinion, I guess, to others, or support them as they're growing, especially with young administrators.
I was talking to my sister last night, and I told her that you were leaving the high school and going, and she was like, why? And I was like, I think it's like natural career progression. Like it's kind of what you do, like you don't want to. You don't want to be the principal for 25 years, right? No.
In this day, I don't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think,
Through COVID, too.
Oh, my gosh.
You poor guy.
No, I think, it's definitely not a climb the ladder sort of thing. It feels like a natural progression, but it's not like, hey, I want a higher and higher position. It's just a different set of challenges, and that feels really. It really does. It feels good to think, hey, I can put my skills to use in a different way.
Yeah.
So give us an idea of the types of services that ESD provides. And part of that mean, I would imagine that like in a bigger school district, like LeGrand, some of those services they're able to do and the ESD does not. So so talk about that relationship and how those services change depending on the size.
Yeah, it definitely varies across the state.
Right.
Region 18, Wallowa County ESD is definitely one of the smallest, if not the smallest ESD in Oregon. And as such, they serve very, very small districts. So they provide special education services for the most part for all those districts, whether that's teachers, diagnosticians, the supervisors that make sure we're compliant. So there's a SPED director and those kind of folks. IT is a huge part of that. And I would say that's similar to Intermountain in that they provide the backbone and the networking side of things, even for LeGrand School District. But we have our own IT team that collaborates with them. And so it varies. So the other big thing is the integrated guidance, which is the new name of the just the conglomeration of all of the big state grants from the state of Oregon that funnel to districts and help them fund a variety of programs. Measure 98 is one of those, and I have a lot of experience with that. It's called High School Success now, where it's mostly geared towards CTE, college learning opportunities, and dropout prevention. And so for those schools who simply can't afford to hire more staff to navigate those things, we will write the plans, develop the budget in collaboration with them, work with their boards and their superintendents, and sort of maintain that so that they can just do the day-to-day and do what they do so well, and we can make sure the money is funneling where it should. State of Oregon's moving in that direction, and just wants ESDs to be the brokers of a lot of those big dollar grants that that fund so much of what we do in K-12 education.
So, and that was, so are ESDs, I mean, are they in every school district? I mean, are they in every, and are they just automatically, this is the school district, this is the school, this is the ESD. I mean, how does that come about?
You have to, your board has to agree to a local service plan with that ESD. One example would be the Union Baker ESD that used to be centered here, and that was dissolved after some issues arose. When that happened, Baker School District 5J, they opted out of services from a school district or from an ESD, and they actually serve as sort of a pseudo ESD to other small districts over there in Baker and I think Malheur County as well, a little bit. But you have to opt in, and some of the services you can opt into, and others you can opt out of. Hermiston pulled out of, well, the CTE consortium for Intermountain, because they're big enough that they felt like they could do it on their own. And so it definitely varies from district to district, but you have a regional ESD you can access if you choose that and have the need.
And so, and money comes along with whether you buy in or buy out, I would imagine, opt in. So in other words, if you were depending on an ESD to help you with CTE programming, okay, then that money would actually go to that ESD, and then they would distribute it to you.
Correct.
You opting in, then you're saying, okay, yeah. And so they help you administrate that program,
right.
I would imagine.
Yeah. For example, at LeGrand High School, we are part of the consortium for the Intermountain ESD's CTE region, and all of these other schools are part of Malheur. Believe it or not, like all of Union County and even Wallowa County, I believe, are with Malheur for the CTE portion.
Okay.
And that was a choice that LeGrand made based on some relationships there versus Malheur. And so we're really the only school over here that plays in that sandbox with that group. And I think there's 20, if I remember right, 21 schools that are in that. Pendleton and LeGrand being sort of the big dogs, and lots of other little small schools. But it's really helpful to have that liaison with the state, and I think it's important for all schools, but it definitely varies as to what you access and what you opt out of.
So this is way different than being a principal. Clearly.
That's a mammoth understatement.
Yeah. So I mean, how did you, I don't know, talk about a little bit about why you're interested in this shift? I mean, I know you, why this one?
Well, to be fair, I looked at a job in the Intermountain ESD a year or 2 years ago, and in sort of the same type of role, not assistant superintendent, but the same type of work, and that didn't work out. But I think it was really bad timing. But this came along, and it felt like a fit. It felt right, and I've usually trusted my gut, and so I pursued it, and it all happened very quickly, and so in a matter of a couple of days, I had a job offer and accepted, and so let my superintendent know. But it happened pretty quick there at the end, and so it felt good. It felt right. And I know so many of the people that work up there and have family up in Wallowa County. So it didn't seem like a stretch at all.
Good.
Are you going to commute?
I am at first. Yeah.
Get the kids all graduated and then.
Well, yeah, I think at least the twins will graduate here next month.
But, they're about to graduate this year.
But my freshman, my youngest daughter, she's got some time, and we've been looking at property. It's, like anything else, it's crazy expensive, and interest rates aren't good. So it's pretty bad timing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful up there.
But it's gorgeous. I mean, gosh,
really.
You can't find a more beautiful spot on earth. So yeah, I think natural fit, just feeling good about it. Trusting my wife way more than I trust myself to sort of steer me in the right direction. Yeah, it felt like the right move.
So where is home originally for you? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Union.
Okay.
Have lived in Union County all but maybe 8 or 10 years of my life. I lived in a couple other states, and I served a mission from a church in Brazil, so lived there for a couple of years. And other than those stints outside. I'm kind of a Union County guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got family all over, right? I mean,
Yeah. Somebody said the Baxters are kind of like
yeah.
mosquitoes that you forgot to spray for. They're everywhere.
Oh, that's funny.
I hope we're not the pests, but yeah, I got lots of family, and my wife's family actually lived up in Enterprise for a long time. Some time ago when they were raising their kids, so we've looked at places up there a lot over the years.
So, hey, if you're listening and you want to funnel a question to Brett, then yeah, who knows where that's going to go. But yeah, do that in the Facebook comments, and we'll, if it's appropriate, we'll try and pass it on. But so looking back on 10 years in this meat grinder, as you called it, yeah.
I stole that from somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know? I mean, what are maybe some of the things that people wouldn't really understand that are part of the daily life of a principal? Maybe let's start there. Yeah.
Well, having been a principal at the elementary for a little bit, you quickly feel the huge difference. There are very few evening events. There aren't sports teams. You don't have competitive groups heading all over the place all year long. And obviously the huge difference is just high school kids are very different than others, and they have different needs, and they're more mobile, they're more adult sometimes. But it's just a different clientele. But living by the bell, every 50 minutes, every hour, there's a bell ringing, and you're you're juggling everything you do to try to meet up with teachers or staff or kids, and there's just a bell ringing all day long every day.
Yeah.
And so that feels like, hey, it really drives everything we do. That's a big, I can't imagine a life without a bell ringing.
That must be a common thing for teachers and principals, because Paul Anders talks about that all the time.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, I lived by the bell for 20 years. It's like, I couldn't imagine it.
It's something else. I mean, I can understand like a morning bell and an afternoon bell, like work starting, work's ending, but that doesn't happen as a high school principal. You're there as early as you can be there, and you're there as late as needed. And so, 80, 90 hour weeks are not uncommon at all. And that's pretty heavy lift for that many years. It was actually Larry Glaze that told me when he brought me back up to the high school. He said, "Hey, Brett, this job as a meat grinder, high school principal." And I said, "Well, I have a little bit of sense, because I had been the assistant principal with Andrea Waldrop for a couple of years, and I was real close to the action there and in the heart of it." So he said, "You just got to be careful. It's got to become your life, but it's also going to chew you up and spit you out." And so I've always tried to mitigate that with healthy practices, but it just takes so much of your time that, frankly, for me, it's been hard to be healthy too. You just don't have time.
Yeah.
I got a comment. Bud Force says, "LHS has shined the last few years I've returned. Thanks for building a culture."
Oh, that's kind.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things.
He's a grad. He's an LHS grad way back in
the
like, what was it, 20s, Bud?
Yeah. One of the things that I kind of become aware of, and I think it was, that at times when you look at a high school, you wonder, okay, who's really in charge?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the faculty that's in charge? If they're a strong core, or is it the administration? And I mean, it seems like there's a balance there. I mean, it's hard to be a leader of something you're not really in charge of. Yeah. I mean, talk about that for a minute. Yeah.
It is. I think that's the case with any leadership position, but there's definitely a balance. You need buy-in. You need energy behind all the initiatives and programs you undertake. And so if everything's top down, that's not going to work.
Right.
You need influential people on staff that you can bring along and influence others. And sometimes you just need to get to hard conversations with all of the staff about what's not going well and what do we need to tweak to make it right, or what do we need to completely change course on. And so my approach has always been trust the expertise that your staff have. And if they have that experience and that knowledge, then like trust that I don't have all the
Right.
good ideas. There's no, corner on the market there. I think sometimes culture shifts are hard, and that takes time. So it might feel like, gosh, the faculty or the students or whatever are really kind of driving things. But I feel like after a time, I mean, I've hired, I would say, a majority of the people that work there now. And so you start to sort of get to build your team. And,
Right.
and as that changes, I think you have a little more buy-in and a little more collaboration on the things that you want to get done, and that just takes time. And things sometimes move really slow, but I feel like it's been a good, healthy mix of tons of staff input, me coming with my vision and direction, and sometimes it does have to be very directive, and other times you just go, hey, what's best? Let's do this the right way. What you guys are really good at this too, so let's get better together.
Empowering people is a highly effective leadership skill. It really is.
I think it's critical. I always talk about it in terms
Very.
of like building leadership capacity, but why? I mean, I just don't feel like I'm that smart. I mean, like all the knowledge in the room, all the expertise, like why not put that to use?
Yeah. And when you talk about buying, somebody that you've empowered buys in way easier.
Yeah.
It's proven, right?
And you get those people who have leadership responsibilities and opportunities, then exactly. They really buy in, they get to lead. And I've got a team that's down at the Northwest PBIS conference right now, today and tomorrow, and they're going to be leaders as they come back with great new ideas, but also sort of a cohesive vision of how to implement some new things next year. And that's exciting for me, to get to see them, rise up and be really excited about the work. And those are things that are really needed. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So then one of the things so you hire faculty.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry that seems really obvious, but you can see where over then the longevity is a huge advantage in being a principal. Yeah.
I think so too. The average, well, at least some years ago when I was looking at it, the average high school principal in America was between 3 and 4 years.
Right.
That was their stint. Well, it takes 3 to 4 years just for your staff to understand you and you to understand them and play to their strengths and come to some agreements. So I feel like you're just sort of starting to work at that point and really starting to move forward with some momentum. So having a few more years is good. There's probably just a natural time to leave too. Somebody else's lens and perspective is probably needed, and I'm good with that. I did the same thing when I came in.
Yeah.
Like, somebody else is going to see it different. Go, man, if we would just do this, tweak this thing, or change this thing, like we're gonna make huge improvements in whatever area. That's awesome. That makes me excited for LHS. So.
Yeah. So, what are some of the things that you're happy with over the years? What are some, yeah, I mean,
I've thought a lot about that in the last 2 weeks. My wife and I were driving somewhere the other night, and I said, well, I have a really hard time tooting my own horn, but but I recognize that really good things have happened while I've been there, and maybe I'm just along for the ride, but started to list some of those things, and every one of them has to do with kids. Every one of them, whether it's state championships, I mean, just one after the other. And some of those are long-standing, like the choir. I mean, they've been doing that for 12, 13 years. And other teams, we've hired great head coaches and turned some programs around. I would say, though, as I was walking through one of the buildings the other day, I see a plaque there and it has my name on it, among lots of other names. But I was like, wow, I got to be a part of this. I got to influence how the LHS gym was designed and what configuration and what went on the floor and all those things. I had to be part of that, and building a brand new CTE building and revitalizing several programs. Like, I got to be along for the ride on that. And they have really impacted kids and given them some pride, but also given them lots of new opportunities that they didn't have when I jumped into the chair. So, and some of those things were already, in the works before I took the job, and it'll be the same with the next person. We've got lots of plans and already working on things that'll look different next year and the year after that, and that person will inherit those. So my favorite is just being with the kids. That's the hardest part, and that's the exciting part for Wallowa County, because I get to be out in the buildings. I get to go to all those schools, elementary, middle, high, and that's really exciting to get to know a whole bunch more kids and just see them shine and do their thing.
It might not have set in yet, but I think like when you retire, you're gonna look back and say, like, I was a principal of a high school through one of the most tumultuous times in history. Like, it really, like COVID was like, I mean, and we made it. You know what I mean? Like, I think you'll look back on that when you're retired.
You're probably right.
And recognize how important it was.
You're probably right. I think you going through it, we all just, you just grit your teeth.
What choices we
Yeah,
do?
we hung on.
Yeah.
White knuckling.
Yeah.
But probably with some hindsight and perspective, it'll make more sense and have some impact.
Definitely.
But I'll never get to retire. Jeez, Dodsy. Like, that's so far away. I can't even imagine that day. So.
Well, and it's funny because, all of my kids went through LHS, and, they graduated in, the first decade of 2000s. But, I mean, somewhere in the early 2000s, they reduced the CTE programs.
Right.
And I remember them going away, and it was like, where is that? How is that even possible? I mean, what are they thinking? And I know that I don't know what the rationale behind that decision was, but clearly it wasn't sustainable even then to know that you can't not teach CTE. And so yeah, what a cool revival that has been of those programs, and how critical it is. I mean, people are finally waking up to the fact that college track is not the right track for everyone. Yeah.
We've had that conversation so many times. 80s, 90s, late 80s at least, 90s, early 2000s. I mean, the conversation was, how can we get every kid to college?
Right.
Posters all over the building. You're going to make this much more money if you go to college versus just a high school diploma. All kinds of those things. Everything was geared towards, and if you aren't a fit for college, then we're going to figure out something else. But you at least need to have that.
That was the default. Yeah.
And that pendulum was clear over here. I mean, that's coming back into a sense of like, whoa, we don't even have skilled tradesmen. I mean, we can't hire enough people. And like, those industries are desperate for skilled workers. And now we were having a conversation with another superintendent yesterday afternoon, and that there is just such a cry for help to get kids, high school kids, ready for the work world. And diplomas, well, not diplomas, but college degrees just don't mean what they used to mean.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they aren't still valuable, and some jobs require those, but I think that's going to shift too. It's certificates, getting kids skills and certificates that allow them to get into a high wage, high demand job. That's where it's at, and kids understand that. And I think that was part of, a pretty heavy blow post-COVID, but last year's graduation rate, right? It's a perfect example. We had so many kids walking away because during COVID, they were out working full time.
Right.
I don't have to be in school, so I'll go to work.
Right.
Then everybody starts paying $14, $15, $16, $18 an hour.
It's hard to turn down.
And high school kids are going, why would I need a diploma?
Right.
So that shift in mentality for both the kids and educators is really, I think, a healthy swing back of that pendulum to understand there's got to be a balance, but more and more it's about skills, high wage, high demand jobs. And so to be part of that, I mean, CTE is incredibly expensive, just about every program. It's not sustainable unless that's a priority for you. And it's finally become a huge priority for the state of Oregon. And they're finally investing in that on a perpetual basis. And there's some ways that we can funnel money right back to those programs. I remember when I came on the Mech Tech program, the automotive mechanics, that was being cut. It was cut
Right,
the first
yeah.
year I got hired here at LeGrand, and we just dissolved that program overnight, couldn't afford it, and consolidated staff. And so to be able to bring those back and revitalize it, like you said, it's huge. It's just, it never should have gone away.
Right.
But it's so expensive. School districts just can't do it on their own.
But still, part of the thing that was missing before was the building. It was kind of the infrastructure, right? Yeah. And
antiquated facilities, equipment, all those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you guys have taken some huge step forward to keep that in place for years to come. Yeah.
And I think partnerships are a key part of that. We have businesses all around LeGrand and Union County who have been key partners in helping us design those buildings.
Yeah. Be specific for a minute so that people can understand. Yeah.
Barretto Manufacturing, for example, helped us when we were designing our new welding lab, which was sorely out of date. They helped us design with our students the new welding booths. They helped us choose what industry relevant equipment should be there and what technology they should be exposed to as they're entering the manufacturing world or welding itself. And so we actually sent kids out to Barretto, I think it was over Christmas break, and they helped them build those welding booths. I mean, that's the extent that they went to.
Right.
Because they need kids to come to work for them post high school.
Right.
And
it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it really does. Like somebody that's in the industry should be influencing what's going on with the people that are being trained to eventually do that job.
It's a natural, the word today seems to be braiding, but it's a natural braiding of funds. They've got funding and we've got funding, but neither of us can do it alone. So, come together with partnerships.
Yeah.
The other one that sticks out to me is in our first revitalization grant, the Grand Ronde Model Watershed. So they came to us, or we came to them and said, what can our kids do in these new greenhouses that would be beneficial to you? We'll take as many trees as you can grow of these varieties. You grow the trees for us, and then we'll have your kids out helping us plant them in riparian restoration and reforestation and all those efforts right here on the Grand Ronde River.
Wow.
How cool is that to have kids understand that what they're doing is, going to translate into actual work and get their hands dirty. So those kind of partnerships have been key in driving what equipment we need, what we can do with our facilities, and they sustain it because they need to buy trees.
Well, and that field is highly educational. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it pushes not only, I mean, that pushes people towards the advanced degrees,
Absolutely.
because I mean, the biology side of that. And I
Yeah.
mean, we did a video on that not too long ago, and it was like, whoa, I had no idea, So
There's such a variety of jobs, though, and so as we've expanded, like the medical health pathway that we've got with new courses, I mean, far deeper into human body systems than we used to go with just regular biology classes, for example,
Right.
or health
Right.
classes. So you expose kids to 200 different careers available in the health sciences, and whether it's at a hospital, in a clinic, or in an X-ray lab, right? There's just such a variety of careers and jobs, and I feel like our job is to expose them to that and
Right.
help them find a passion, or help them find, like, hey, I've been thinking about this my whole life. Now that I've seen it, I want no part of
Right.
it. Well,
Right.
that's just as valuable to find out early rather
Absolutely.
than go to school for 6 years and then find out I don't even like this job.
Well, other countries have been doing that for a long time, doing what we're just now
Yeah.
figuring
Yeah,
out.
yeah, I think
It's crazy. Like, you look at like China, the
Yeah.
kids know, you know what I mean? They're already exploring careers at like 8 years
Yep.
old, and
Yep.
then their path is built for them based on what they're going to be.
Well, and we do at that CTE is pushing farther and farther down exposure to different career fields and technology, and we're working on implementing more pre-CTE at the middle school, so they get the flavor, and then when they get to the high school, they can just start running, versus being put off by there's 50 options and I don't know what to do and I have no idea what I like. And so the earlier you can do that, get them some experience and get them energized.
So I'm gonna just one last thing.
Okay.
And I know I'm gonna force you into a corner that you don't want to go in, but a few years ago you shared at graduation a story about a man on a beach.
No.
Yes, and you shared that story. I know.
You know I'm a crybaby.
I know you are, and so am I too. But that was that told me a huge amount about you. I mean, and share that story with you, would you please? Because it's incredibly meaningful. Yeah.
Well, let me breathe here.
Yeah.
Well, we try to sort of I've tried to have a theme for the kids and the staff each year. And that year, it just felt like we needed to pay more attention to individuals and help the one. So the story goes that there's a guy walking down a beach, and there's been a massive storm the night before. And the beach is littered with debris and, flotsam, jetsam. And he sees in the distance somebody walking along, and every once in a while bend down and pick something up and then throw it into the water. And he sees this repeated several times, and like, just perplexed, what is going on here? Like, this huge destruction or the aftermath of a storm is here. You're not going to put a dent in this. And so as he gets close enough, he starts to see what's going on. He asks, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, these starfish got washed up on shore, and I'm putting them back in the water. Got to fling them back out where they can survive and thrive." And he says, like, look around. How do you think you're going to make any difference in all of this? It's not going to matter. Like, your little effort here. And the guy says, as he bends down and picks up another one and flings it into the water, he says, "Well, it mattered to that one." And I think for me, that's just a life. I don't know, pursuit is make a difference one by one. You can't always do it for everybody.
Right.
But if you can touch a life that one day, or lift spirits that one day, or help somebody over a difficult path, or help them find a passion in CTE, it made a difference to that one, and that makes all the difference. So
Yeah.
I got a question coming in from
Okay.
John Dolan.
Oh,
It says,
man.
good morning, Brett. Inform us on high school pathways and what are some of the pathways that LHS student may take, and then how the teachers being trained to teach advanced classes.
That's a great question. So we started a pathways endorsement program. So it's not like an industry recognized certificate, but it's a recognition for a student that pursues a certain course of study and completes enough classes in that, has an industry experience, job shadow, internship. In some cases, it's a performance-based thing. And then they're recognized as a pathway completer at their senior year. So we have biomedical or health sciences. We have visual arts, performing arts. We have natural resources. We have manufacturing. We have business. And we have hospitality and tourism, also known as culinary arts. That's the mainstay of that one. And we're adding a couple more in the next couple of years. One will be computer science. So it's a little more specific to coding and technology and current practice. And we're doing something with education. So we have courses that do early childhood development and psychology and human development and intro to education, which is a college course that potential teachers can take and be exposed to what it's like to teach. And so all those are opportunities, all those are pathways. Not all of those are recognized program of study, but they are pathways within our high school. So so then you have to have pinnacle courses. You've got required courses and then optional ones, and they have to take enough credits. And those pinnacle courses often are dual credit and advanced or AP courses. And so a lot of the training comes from them working in PLCs. Some of it is going to specific training. Like we have a couple people going to Case Science Institute this summer and a Project Lead the Way training for biomedical science this summer, and those are high level trainings for those teachers. But then they work in PLCs either with their university colleagues or others who are doing that same work, and I think it's really helpful for them to elevate what they're able to offer to kids.
So is that kind of the certificate thing that you were talking about earlier, where that you think that eventually, you know what I'm saying? So
it plays a part in that.
Okay.
I think it's like having a forklift certificate, right?
Okay.
That's something that can't happen until you're 18. There's some that can be had before you're 18, but it might be a wilderness EMT or emergency medical responder.
Okay.
It might be our wildland firefighter certs that lots of our kids get after taking fire school. So those are the certifications recognized by industries that actually gets you into a job.
Okay, got it.
But the certificates or the endorsements that we give them at the end are really an in-house recognition and have actually turned out being a huge draw to college admissions and employers for, hey, I see this kid picked something, found a passion. They are really interested in that. Let's give this kid a shot. And so it's been a leg up for them in a lot of cases. We've given away tens of thousands of dollars in scholarships in the last few years for those pathway completers. So each pathway has at least one $1,000 scholarship attached to it at the end of the year. So those people who earned that endorsement can apply for it. And so it's pretty good odds
that makes sense.
To walk away with a pretty significant scholarship. And that's also just an incentive, but it's I think it's been highly valuable too.
Yeah.
One more question from John. What 3 pieces of advice will you tell next year's 8th graders so they may have a successful high school experience?
Ooh, that's a great question. We just met with the entire 8th grade class a couple weeks ago, and I got to talk to them briefly, and lots of others got to talk to them. I think number one, get involved. Do something more than just your 7 classes, and you do well in school. That's a given, but do something beyond that, bigger than yourself. So join a club, sport, or activity. Be part of a team. Be part of a choir. Be part of a band. Something that gives you connectedness. And I think secondly, it's explore. Go try things you haven't ever done to see the potential of what you might have a real skill at or a real passion for. And I guess thirdly, and probably most important, is golden rule. Treat others like you want to be treated. Like, just be kind, be accepting, and understand that everybody you see is, they're fighting the good fight every day too.
Right.
And
100%.
there's no reason to make their day any worse. Like, we should be picking each other up every day. So
Absolutely.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for your service. And I know that there will be an opportunity for people to celebrate your years here over the next few months. And so, and I personally have appreciated your dedication. So, I mean, I say that over and over again with different, especially people that work with youth. If they just hang in there, I mean, if the longevity is kind of the very first requirement.
Yeah.
I mean, and even if they don't know for sure what they're doing, their dedication over a period of time, they figure out the right way to do it. They figure out, and it makes such a difference in the lives of generations of kids. I mean, it just really makes a difference. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
One more comment from John. He says, "Can't let you off easy, Brett. Best of luck to you, my friend."
John has been such a great mentor to me.
A really good friend of mine too.
Yeah.
His kids. And he coached me when I was a kid.
Well, I came up in his shadow and loved
Great dude.
working with him. So
one of my favorite quotes ever, a Dodsey quote, was a quote that I made about him when they put him into the EOU Hall of Fame. I said, John should be in the People Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, really.
Genuinely good person.
Absolutely.
who loves people. I can't say enough good about John.
Me neither. Yep.
Good deal. Yeah. And he's one of those educators that spent years and years and years making a life in the difference of 5th graders, right? First, and then he was
As a teacher. Yeah.
So alrighty, well, you want to get us out of here?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
On this day, April 27th, right? April 27th, 1937, the first U.S. Social Security payment was made. 1937. So,
Wow.
What is that? 75 years ago or so?
37,
74?
yeah. I think that was part of the New Deal program to kind of get the United States out of the Depression funk, if I remember right.
On this day in 1940, Himmler ordered the establishment of Auschwitz concentration camp. On this day in 1940. On this day in 1965, R.C. Duncan patented Pampers disposable diaper.
What year?
1965.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought they were around before then.
Yeah.
1965. I mean, they only came out 14 years before I was born. 1981, Xerox PARC introduces the computer mouse. 1981 was the first mouse.
Wow.
And it was Xerox, which is, I mean, I guess back then they were more involved in computer development. And then we'll jump all the way to 2022. SpaceX launches its Crew Dragon capsule with 4 astronauts, including Jessica Watkins, who becomes the first Black woman to serve extended mission on an international space station. 2022. Number 1 movie in the country on this day in 1993 was Indecent Proposal. That's a pretty good movie, actually. And then quote of the day, Brian Tracy: the ability to discipline yourself to delay gratification in the short term in order to enjoy greater rewards in the long term is the indispensable prerequisite for success. One more time. The ability to discipline yourself to delay gratification in the short term in order to enjoy greater rewards in the long term is the indispensable prerequisite for success. That's
Good
it.
stuff.
All we got. Thanks,
All
Brett.
right.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Brett.
See you Tuesday.
All righty.
Yeah.
See you soon.